Tonight, fighting back.
I noticed that he was taking his iPhone and starting to put it under my dress to take a photo. I told him that I was going to call the cops, and I took out my iPhone and I took a photo of him.
Predator on patrol.
Officer Vigorito's texts became increasingly sexually explicit. Eventually, the officer attempted to convince the child to meet with him for a sexual purpose.
The real story.
Breaking news about MTA crime statistics, or at least that's what everybody else thought.
The news is now.
Hello, I'm Jody Applegate. Now your PIX11 at 10. The search is on for an upskirting pervert who's riding the rails. Tonight, the victim who confronted the creeper is speaking out. Arthur Chen is live at the Union Square subway station with the story. Arthur?
Jody, this is a very brave woman who was traveling on the subway by herself on her way home to Union Square when she was targeted by this pervert. Now, if he was expecting her to go along meekly with it, he picked the wrong person. She does speak to PIX11 tonight. We are withholding her identity, but we let her take you through the rest of it in her own words.
It's scary. It's scary to be a woman in New York City right now. I was on the train coming back from work, and I was reading a book, and I was standing in a very crowded subway, and I was standing up, and there was a gentleman who was sitting down in the seat right in front of me. And I happened to look down from my book for a moment and notice that he was taking his iPhone and starting to put it under my dress to take a photo. I noticed it and I started to scream, and so everyone around me was sort of seeing what was going on. I told him that I was going to call the cops, and I took out my iPhone and I took a photo of him.
What was his reaction when you called him out on it?
He said no, as if he wasn't doing anything. And they always say make a scene and be on your toes, but just in the moment I tried to be as loud as possible, and maybe the fact that he had a phone made me realize, well, I have my phone and I can take a picture of you too.
Now, in the picture, he either looks sleepy or is he like pretending to sleep? What was he doing when you took a picture of him?
He put his head down as soon as I took out my phone.
20 minutes after that happened to you, there's a woman on the L train. A guy started masturbating, again, using her as inspiration, and she snapped a photo of him as well. It's a totally different guy, but as a woman who uses the subway system here in New York, what does that make you think in terms when you travel around?
It's kind of scary. I mean, I've lived here for 3 years now and I've never had a problem before, but when you hear things like that, it makes you cautious and make you not really want to use public transportation as much. I mean, it's basically a sexual offense. I think at the bare minimum you should have to be listed on some registry as a sexual predator.
Why is it important for you personally to step up on this one?
To tell people it's not okay, that it's not okay to treat people that way. It's not okay to disrespect someone, and it's not something that we should tolerate, because otherwise it's just going to keep happening.
Now, it occurred to us tonight when we were talking to the 24-year-old school teacher that she is exactly the right kind of person to be shaping the younger minds in this city. If you recognize either of the men in those photographs, you can contact police directly, or we'll have information on our website about what to do in that situation. But tonight we're live in Union Square. Arthur Chen, PIX11 News. We now go to Dan Manarino, standing by in Woodland Park, New Jersey.
And Arthur, this is a different kind of pervert story. A pervert cop who allegedly sent pictures of him exposing himself while in uniform, while on duty, to who he thought was a 12-year-old girl. Little did he know on the other end of that phone were fellow men in blue.
When you lose one, or you have one of your own do something that's alleged like this, it's very upsetting. And I can assure you that's not the way my department's ran.
A visibly emotional Woodland police chief after he had to order the arrest of one of his own, 39-year-old patrolman Stephen Vigorito, who is now facing some pretty disgusting allegations.
The person that was to assist the family ends up preying on the family member.
It all began here at police headquarters when Vigorito was helping a mother and her 12-year-old daughter with a family problem. When they were done, Vigorito snuck the 12-year-old his cell phone number, and that's where this gets weird.
Then invited her to text him.
Confused, she told her mom, who told police. Police told the prosecutors, who set up a sting posing as the girl.
The texts, from what I was able to see, were fast and furious and more explicit as they went. She is under the age of 13 and was prompted to commit an act of sexual penetration.
And it gets worse. Vigorito allegedly then sent pictures of himself on duty in uniform, exposing himself. That's when his fellow officers had enough and made the arrest.
We didn't care if it was one of our own or not. This was wrong. I'm a father of 5 kids. So as far as him being a police officer, I treated him no differently than if he was a suspect off the street.
Do you have any comment about the arrest last night?
The married father of two's family slammed the door in our face before a woman who wouldn't identify herself came back out to defend Vigorito.
He's not that type of guy.
He's not that what?
No, he's not that type of guy. He's a clean guy.
Now, Vigorito pled not guilty at his arraignment today. He's facing 5 charges. One includes attempted sexual assault of a minor. He's facing up to 35 years in prison. By the way, he has been suspended from his job here at Woodland Park without pay. And the prosecutor says this investigation is far from over. She's looking to see if there are any other potential victims. Let's hope not. Reporting live in Woodland Park, New Jersey, I'm Dan Manarino, PIX11 News. We're swinging on over now to Narmeen Chaudhary. She's in East New York.
A Brooklyn bodega clerk says that he was set up by police, forced to plead guilty to a crime he didn't commit.
They violated his civil rights. They lied in court to make an arrest.
These are the startling allegations being fired against the NYPD by a Brooklyn bodega clerk who claims he was framed. 44-year-old Ishmael Duran says on April 12th, an 18-year-old NYPD auxiliary officer walked into the Giselle Mini Mart trying to purchase beer.
The bodega clerk, who's the gentleman right here, asking him for ID. He's checking his ID here. He then tells him that he cannot sell him the beer.
Surveillance video shows exactly that. Duran doing what he was supposed to do, leading to an empty-handed, booze-free teen. But moments later, outside of the bodega, the 18-year-old auxiliary officer tries another way, handing a $5 marked bill to an older man in his 50s, seen on this video with the white hat.
You see him buying the beer, and you see him out here handing the beer over to the auxiliary officer.
Minutes later, a police officer walks in and handcuffs Duran.
They pull him out from behind the counter, handcuff him, parade him, and you will see that on the videotape, parade him in and out of the bodega for no less than 10 minutes.
Fernando Mateo, president of Hispanics Across America, says police locked up an innocent man, forcing him to plead guilty by telling him that if he didn't, he would spend 3 days in jail. According to Mateo, Duran, who speaks no English, has a wife and 3 kids, and out of fear, did exactly what officers wanted. Now they want the guilty plea dropped.
We're here today at One Police Plaza because we want Raymond Kelly to understand that this is what his department is doing. If he doesn't know it, he's going to see it on videotape today.
The Kings County District Attorney's Office is looking into case. Sources, however, do tell PIX11 that the plea will likely be dropped. As for the actions of the officers involved, that will also be looked into further. In Brooklyn, I'm Narmeen Chaudhary, PIX11 News.
Thank you, Narmeen. Now to the latest from the PIX11 News Desk. 3 months after an NYPD cop cold-cocked a guy in the face during a bar fight, he's been arrested. Ariel Frias is charged with assault. He's been stripped of his badge and assigned to desk duty. The brawl went down in Inwood. The officer and a friend were arguing with 3 people. Then security cams show Frias punching Edwin Veloz in the head so hard he hit the floor and spent weeks in a coma. Frias left the bar instead of waiting for police. Veloz is slowly recovering. He still cannot walk. 9 AIDS activists were arrested today for blocking traffic at Wall Street and Broadway. ACT UP and Occupy protesters wore Robin Hood costumes, waved signs, and chained themselves together. Cops had to use bolt cutters to clear the way. This is the 25th anniversary of the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, or ACT UP. In 1987, the group marched on Wall Street to protest high prices and low availability of AIDS medication. The Bridezilla cancer faker has admitted to conning friends and strangers out of cash. Jessica Vega pleaded guilty to fraud and forgery today in Orange County. A couple of years ago, she said she was dying of cancer and wanted a dream wedding in her final months. Her community chipped in and paid for that wedding, plus a Caribbean honeymoon. She's not expected to go to prison, but she'll most certainly have to pay back the $13 grand. Vega will be sentenced next month. Here's what's making news across the country and overseas. Madeleine McCann, the British girl who vanished while on vacation in Portugal 5 years ago, could still be alive. Scotland Yard released new age progression images that show what she would look like today. She would be 9. Detectives say new leads suggest that she's alive and possibly living with her abductor. They refused to describe the new leads. They urged Portuguese police to reopen the search. An arrest in what appears to be a Trayvon Martin retaliation beating. Police in Mobile, Alabama picked up this career criminal today. Over the weekend, Matthew Owens was beaten by a mob of 20 people swinging chairs, pipes, and paint cans. He remains in intensive care. The beatdown went down when Owens chased a group of black kids off his yard. Minutes later, he was attacked. Neighbors say they heard someone yell, "This is justice for Trayvon." More arrests are expected. A Marine who slammed President Obama on Facebook has been kicked out of the military. Sergeant Gary Stein will be given an other than honorable discharge. The Marines acted after Stein posted, "Blank Obama, and I will not follow all orders from him." The case called into question the Pentagon's policies about social media and the limits on free speech for military personnel. Well, this one is a rebel without a prom. A Tennessee teenager says she was kicked out of her senior prom for wearing this Confederate flag dress. Texana Edwards says she was turned away at the door because the principal told her the gown was offensive and inappropriate. But the teen says she doesn't get it and says she has support from her classmates.
It wasn't done to offend anybody. It was done just for the sole factor that I just wanted to wear a flag dress because I thought it was cool.
It was heritage, not hate. She didn't go in there to make nobody upset or nothing like that.
So classmates Black and White seem to be backing her up. Classmates wear the stars and bars all the time, according to the girl, just not to the prom. Texana's mom, by the way, says she spent about $500 on the dress, makeup, and hair, which is a whole story in and of itself. But if you're not already on Twitter, sign up now so you can sound off about this girl's dress and prom experience. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. I'm at PIX11 Jody. That brings us to number 11. 11 is weather. Let's get over to Mr. G in the Weather Center. G.
All right, Jody, a couple of scattered showers in the forecast for tomorrow, but let's check out first the nighttime as we swing the map into motion. Look at the frost freeze advisory in effect from Ulster and Orange and Dutchess and Putnam and Fairfield and Litchfield County up to Greene County, where it is a frost advisory. Now, right now in the Midtown area, north, north, and west, you're in the low 40s here in the big town, holding at 53 degrees. The beam is dry. The cloud shield will drift in tomorrow, and there's a couple of scattered showers you see coming in from the west. So the question is, do we get into that? And the other question, look at this. Know anybody in Midland, Texas?
No,
Lubbock?
Can't say as I do.
Abilene? Dallas?
I know some people who are in Dallas right now.
Heat is on for them tomorrow, and the question is, will any of that heat arrive here? Not your friends, the heat.
Well, we shall see. Thank you, Mr. G. Weather wraps up your PIX11 at 10, and we'll be right back.
Mark.
Next, Cooper Cash.
It's scary. There's $1 trillion worth of student debt. And what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to answer to that?
Off track.
When it comes to real estate, the MTA does not have a good track record. Empty buildings, other buildings, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of renovations. That's why I want you to know how today's meeting played out.
A mother's gratitude.
In that moment, my son was jumped and punched. Had she not been there doing what she did to protect him, I can pretty much say with certainty that things would have turned out quite differently.